What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to give my predictions for the 2024-25 season in the Premier League. There are some shocks in here. I actually think two of the big six won't even finish in the top eight. And starting off at the bottom of the league, I've gone with Southampton. I think they made some good signings, making Harwood Bellis and Flynn Downs permanent. Great deals. Brereton Diaz is a decent addition. He was alright at Sheffield United last season. And I also think Adam Armstrong's going to have a very good season. I'm predicting him to score at least 15 goals. It'll be like QPR in 2014-15 when we had Charlie Austin scoring 18 goals and we still finished bottom of the league. I also think they've made a good decision by letting Che Adams go because he is a terrible footballer. But the reason I think they're going to go down is just because Russell Martin doesn't have a plan B. He wants to play open possession football, and that is an admirable trait to have, but it didn't work in games in the Championship. He got slapped up by certain teams. And I think in the Premier League, it's going to be even worse. If Bazunu is their first choice goalkeeper as well, it's going to be a long day because he is awful at shot stopping. He underperforms his XGA so much in the Championship, and in the Premier League, he'll be facing so many more shots. He's just not good enough for the Premier League, in my opinion. Fantastic with the ball at his feet, but he can't do what a goalkeeper's meant to do. Russell Martin's lack of adaptability sends Southampton down, in my opinion, because I actually think their squad is pretty decent. 19th, I've gone with Brentford. A big reason why I've gone with them is just the player politics at that club is going to be just messed up, man. I don't think I've ever seen a footballer hate the club they play for as much as Ivan Toney hates Brentford. This guy will stop at nothing to let people know how much he hates that club and does not respect them. Like he said, if he is not sold in this window, he will leave for free next summer, which leaves Brentford in a bit of a conundrum because, I mean, it's their own fault. I don't feel for them at all, but they wanted, what, 80 mil last summer. Why did they want so much when he couldn't play for half a year? If they put his price of 50, that's still a good deal. But I think everyone knows now he's a bit of a prick. No one wants to sign him. Brentford will still want too much money for him, but he was awful at the back end of last season. And I think, yeah, the hatred will grow between both parties because he's going to feel like Brentford have wasted another year of his life. Brentford are going to feel like, well, we've done everything for you. We stood by you after your whole gambling thing. And this is how you're paying, And also the signings they made. I mean, Carvalho is an okay player. He did well in the Championship last season, but he's not great. I don't really see where he fits in. Brentford don't really play with a number 10. He might play on the wing. Maybe he'll play as a false nine. I don't really know. The new Brazilian striker they've signed is already injured until Christmas. I also think their squad just isn't thick enough. They haven't got the depth. Their fullbacks, Rico Henry and Aaron Hickey, very decent, but they don't really have any backups in those areas. And last year, Henry was out for pretty much the whole season. And I think if Thomas Frank leaves, I think he'll get a better job in the middle of the season. He'll be like, yeah, I'm done with this shit show. I'm off. Now in 18th, I've gone with another newly promoted team. It's Leicester City. I do quite like Leicester. I don't really want them to go down, but they're potentially going to be hit with an 8 to 10 point deduction. I'm hearing maybe it'll be 6, but that's quite a lot, especially when you consider the fact that they've lost the best player in Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. However, I think they do have a decent squad. Fatawu and Mavididi are very good players. Buonanotte is a brilliant signing, but they desperately need a striker. Because they've been linked with Slojek, who isn't really a striker. Daka's absolutely awful. That guy can't even score goals in the Championship, man. He's so bad. And Jamie Vardy's now 37 years old. You can't keep relying on him to get you the goals. One of the biggest legends in the Premier League. He's one of the most underrated players the league's ever seen. But he's 37. I think their midfield was pretty decent. Winks and Ndidi were very good last season. The fullbacks are decent. They brought in a Collier as a new centre back as well. Don't really know too much about him. But the central defenders aren't the best, so it's a good signing in my opinion. I think they do have a chance of staying up just because they brought in Cooper. I think Maresca would have 100% sent them down because, like Russell Martin, he only has one way of playing. He would not have changed that regardless of what's going on. Whereas Cooper's much more tactically flexible. Now in 17th, it's a third newly promoted team. I'm going Ipswich Town. Some of their signings, again, have been very, very good. I like the fact that they made Hutchinson permanent. Jacob Greaves, one of the best defenders in the Championship last season. And Muric, at the end of the season for Burnley, was really decent. They've also tried to sign some depth players at fullback, Ben Johnson and Connor Townsend. Very decent players if Davies or Harry Clark were to go down. I think Connor Chaplin's going to have a very good year. There's a lot of impetus on Sam Morsey and Luongo to do well. I'm not sure if they can do it. Obviously, it's a big step up, especially Morsey. He's getting on a bit now. He was very decent last season. They've signed Phillips to also help with that area, and I think he could actually do well in a high pressing system. Obviously, at West Ham last season, where they just sat back for most of the time, it wasn't really the right fit for him. They've been linked with Schmodix. I don't really think they need him because he's quite a similar sort of player to Chaplin. And I think Ipswich will score a lot of goals, but they'll concede loads as well. And the main reason I think they're going to stay up is just because of that Leicester are almost certainly going to have points taken off them. Now in 16th, I've gone with Wolverhampton Wanderers, slightly below where they finished last season. I don't think they're going to really be in any danger of going down there because they've got Gary O'Neill. He's such a good manager. He'll definitely keep them up, even though they have lost Pedro Neto, their best player. They've got a decent amount of money for him. but he will be a big loss. The 8 million for Kilman, I think, is great business. I don't think he's that good. But the squad has just got weaker again, man. Like, they still have Hwang, they still have Cunha, and they've signed a couple good young players. But yeah, I don't see him having a great year. I mean, Tommy Doyle, I do like that signing. 4.3 mil, can't really go wrong with that. And they did really struggle at the back end of last season. You know, if Dawson was to go down again, they might struggle quite a lot. But they only won 2 out of 12 games at the end of the season. 15th, I've gone with Everton. It's going to be their final season at Goodison Park. They also could be getting another points deduction, which is just really peak, man. And I've seen a lot of people think they're going to really struggle without Onana. He didn't even play that much last season. You know, he was injured a lot. It was mainly Garner, Gay, and Decore playing in those sort of areas. Brownfight is injured to start the season, which is a real shame because he's fantastic. But they've all signed Jake O'Brien for the centre back spot. If Brownfight was to leave, he could be a decent replacement. Or if he was to stay, them two together could be a really good duo. Tim Burnham, former QPR lad, he'll cook there. I think he'll be a very good addition. I'm excited to see what Lindstrom brings though. They bought him off Napoli on an initial loan, but yeah, we'll see how he does. And I also think Iliman Ndiaye is a brilliant signing. Spent a year at Marseille after joining from Sheffield United. With him, I'm not sure where he's going to play. If he's a number 9, I'd like to see him bring in Sammy Szmodics from Blackburn because I think he's the perfect shadow striker for a Sean Dyche system. But at the same time, if Ndiaye is going to be the number 10 sort of player, he could work pretty well with Calvert-Lewin. 14th, I've gone with Fulham. You know, they have lost some key players like Pellegrini and Tosin. They do still have Sasha Lukic, who I think will play a much bigger part in the season, but he does need to be significantly better than he has been in the last couple of years. I haven't really been very impressed with him whenever I've watched him. They have signed, I don't really know how to say his name, but Cuenca, some Spanish defender. And they've also been linked with a return for Joaquim Anderson. I think Smith Rowe will be one of the signings of the season. He's a brilliant player if they can keep him fit. I don't see why he can't contribute to 15 goals this season. Yeah, I think Smith Rowe, Iwobi, and Pereira are going to contribute to some really nice patches of play this season. I think with Muniz being up front, if he continues his form from last season, them four are going to contribute to some really nice goals this season. The main reason I think they're going to be fine is just because of Marco Silva, man. He's such a good manager, really underrated. I can see Fulham finishing as high as 11th because of him. In 13th, I've gone with Nottingham Forest. I think their squad is really good. I cannot believe the amount of people that I think they're going to go down. You know, they've got a really good young core with players like Anthony Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Ellie Anderson, new addition, and Murillo, who I actually think, in terms of technical ability, arguably the best centre-back in the world, man. You watch him for 5 seconds and you can just tell he's a Brazilian, man. He is ball control, he's dribbling, he can do everything. The only issue is his aerial ability. You know, he's very weak in the air. So they've gone and bought a 6'5" old school Serbian defender who is so aerially dominant. And they've also bought a 6'8" goalkeeper. If Awoniyi can keep himself fit this season, I think he could have another really good year. See, last year just wasn't good for him, but Chris Wood picked up the slack. He was fantastic. And they've also signed a new Paraguayan young attacker called Sosa. I don't really know a lot about him, if I'm going to be honest, but he's South American, so he's probably quite good. I am a bit worried about their midfield, though. I feel like it's not great defensively. You know, I'd like to see him add someone else there because I feel like they could be quite open. Now, I do not rate Espirito Santo at all, and I actually think they're going to have a bad start to the season. He'll get sacked, they'll bring in someone better, and that's why they're going to finish as high as they do. Because if he stays the whole season, I don't know how well they'll do. In 12th, I've gone with Bournemouth. They have just lost their star player, Dominic Solanke, to Tottenham, but they did get £65 million for him, and they've replaced him already with Evan Nilsson, a Brazilian striker. Don't know a lot about him again, but he's coming from Porto. He did all right in the Champions League. But as far as replacements go, you can't really get much better, I don't think. Boyson, the new young centre-back at the time, looks like a really promising player as well. And the players have now experienced a full year of Iraola football. They've also signed Julian Araujo from Barcelona, a new right-back. I don't know how I feel about that because Max Aarons is my boy and I was really looking forward to him playing more this season, not being hit by injury. Is he now going to be second choice? I don't know. I'm also excited to see more of Alex Scott. You know, hopefully he doesn't have as many injuries this season. When he did play last season, he looked really good. I think Clive and Semenyo once again are going to be absolutely key for Bournemouth. They were very underrated last season, especially Semenyo. And Ryan Christie as well, really good player. Now in 11th, I've gone with Brighton and Hove Albion. I think losing Gross is such a big loss, man. I know he's now 33, but he's been there since the first season they were promoted. He's so versatile, you know, he can play at central midfield, defensive midfield, attacking midfield, right back. I'm pretty sure he's played a right centre back before as well. He covers so much ground, like he's just such a team player. They're also potentially losing Gilmore, but they made some really good attacking signings. Players like Minte and Grunder, who is very highly rated in the Bundesliga. They've also signed Jorginho Ruter off Leeds United. And he was fantastic last season, contributed to so many goals. And Sarmiento's also back from his own. So if they were to lose Adingra, who's been linked with Tottenham, or Mitoma, like they're set. Like even though they have loaned out Bonanotti, and I'm very sad about the team because I love him. I can understand with them bringing all these attacking players in, he probably won't play a lot. They're also close to signing Ferdi Kadioglu, a new fullback. The manager's only 31 years old. In terms of the management game, he is a fetus, fam. Brighton always make the right appointments. They're yet to employ a bad manager since they've come up to Premier League. Now, the first shock of the video, well, first real shock, I guess. Maybe some people count Brentford as a shock, but Manchester United in 10th. I don't really get what they're doing. I spent half the summer looking at new managers, and then they decide to give Ten Hag a new contract. Like, what? I do kind of understand them sticking with him if there was no one better available, but why give him a new contract? He'll have a really bad start, yeah. And if they hadn't given him a new contract, they could have sacked him in October. Now they're giving him a new contract. They're going to probably give him until at least December or January. And by then, it might be too late for them to recover. And I think De Ligt is a good signing. He's a really good player if he can keep himself fit, but he is injury prone. Yoro is already injured. I think Mazraoui is a decent player as well. He's not quite as good defensively or quite as physical as Wan-Bissaka, but he is better technically. But in terms of attackers, I think Diallo is fantastic and he needs to be a starter if Manchester United can have a successful season. Sancho, very good on his day, but that day just never comes. Garnacho is overrated, but he's a decent player, still young, could still grow into a good player. But Marcus Rashford, man, they should have been moving him on. He is terrible. Like, the guy can't dribble anymore. He's not creative at all. He's so greedy. His only calf redeemable attributes are his pace. And when he's feeling confident, he has got a good shot on him. But when he's unconfident, he misses so many. Zirkzee could be a very good addition. He himself has said he's not really a number 9, he's not really a number 10, he's sort of in between, which could actually get the best out of Rashford. But I still think they need a defensive midfielder really badly. Like, Casemiro has looked better in pre-season, but we saw how bad he was last season. If he's having to play every 3 days, it's not going to end well for him. Like, the bloke's, what, 33, 34 now? Like, the defensive midfield position should have been addressed straight away in the window. Shaw yet again is injured, so one of Mazraoui or Dallo will have to play at left back probably, unless Martinez plays out there. And I just think Ten Hag's football has been atrocious since he joined Manchester United. They got away with it first year when they finished in third. Last season, it did catch up with them, but they still finished 8th and won the FA Cup. This year, I think it's going to go all wrong, man. The amount of shots they were letting at their goal last season, there's only so much luck you can have, and I think it's run out for him. Now in 9th, I've gone Chelsea. I just think they have too many players. It's going to take Maresca a while to get his best team together. And once he does that, he can't even keep playing them every week because they've got about 50 players, so he has to rotate to try and keep more players happy. He also only has one way of playing, there's absolutely no plan B. I saw it last season at Leicester, they had such a good squad, by far the best in the Championship. And he almost bottled the title because he got found out and he just wasn't changing anything. Eventually, the prowess of his players did come through, but at Chelsea, there's a lot of teams that are also really, really good, and I think he could struggle in those games. I don't really understand why they signed Dewsbury Hall. Like, he's a great player, but they don't need him. I think they just signed him because he's Maresca's best mate or some shit. I think a lot of their best players, the likes of Reece James and Christopher and Nkunku, Wesley Fofana, and new signing Pedro Neto, all so injury prone. I think Colwell also has to be a lot better. He's touted as one of England's best young centre back prospects. I have not seen that at Chelsea so far. And the way they're being run, forcing Gallagher and Chalobah out, 2 of their homegrown boys to come through the academy. Imagine how the other academy lads are feeling, seeing these boys who had dreams of playing for the club being forced out to bring in all these other random players. Like, it's not going to fill the young lad with any hope. Enzo Fernandez as well, man. £105 million in 18 months. He's had 2 good games. That is not good enough. I think he could be a lot better in the Maresca system. He has been dreadful, man. I cannot believe how bad he's been. And Madueke as well, being linked with a move away. I think that'd be really bad because he's been really good. Like, look, at the end of last season, he was one of their best players, man. Like, the way he was dribbling past players, his defensive work rate improved massively. I feel like people have this perception of him that he's really greedy and has a big ego and stuff. I did not see that at the end of last season. Off that penalty incident, he got his head down and he worked hard for the team. And I've still seen reports that they could sign Osimhen. I don't know how they've done this, man. You almost have to rate the shithousery, the lack of care they have for the rules. But how are they getting away with this, man? They're an absolute mess. 8th, I've gone with Crystal Palace. I think Elisa is a huge loss, man. He's one of the best players in the world in his position. He can do absolutely everything you want a right winger / attacking midfielder to do. And they could still lose Gahey or Eze, Newcastle, Manchester City being linked with them. And even Adam Wharton's been linked with a move away. Now, I don't think they'll lose all 3. I think they'll only lose a maximum of 1 because the amount of money they'd get for just one of those players is more than enough. And if it was Gahey that left, I don't think it'd be as huge a loss as it may seem because despite the fact that he's a very good player, He played one game in Palace's fantastic run where they won 7 out of 8 games. They have brought in some good players. They signed Riyad as a new young centre back, formerly of Barcelona. Ismail Assar, he's been brought in to kind of replace Elise, I guess. Completely different type of player, much more one-dimensional, more of a crosser. So he could get Mateta a lot of assists like that. But I also don't know how that will affect Munoz because he was really good at providing the overlap last season. So we'll have to see, maybe Ismail Assar will be instructed to play more centrally. I think Mateta will have another banging season, man. He is such a good player, well, the second greatest football player to ever exist after Jimmy Dunn. I'm also very excited to see a Wharton Decore midfield duo. I think that could be ridiculous. I don't even like Crystal Palace, and I actually kind of wanted to keep Elise just so we could have seen everyone together. Yeah, Oliver Glasner, he's just so good. The way he performed last season was really, really amazing, and I expect him to do really good things again. Now, third London club in a row in seventh, I'm going West Ham United. I made a TikTok on them already. I think they made some phenomenal signings. Tadiba will go on to be one of the best signings of the season. Really good centre back. Hijacked him from Juventus, man. That is crazy. Kilman was a bit of an overpay, but he's better than the other centre backs they have. As a free transfer, Guido Rodriguez is brilliant business. Somerville, amazing. 30 million, right-footed winger, which they've needed desperately. Adds a new dimension into their attack. I think Fulkrug's a really good signing as well. Not necessarily the biggest goal threat, but will link up all the other players really, really well. Allow them to play their best football. Wan-Bissaka is a big upgrade over Soufal as well. He's much more physical, better defensively, and I think he's going to be really good in that system. They are also still linked with John Duran from Aston Villa, and if they get him as well, wow, what a window. I think Kudus is going to have an even better season. Last year, his first year, didn't play loads, but whenever he did, he was always so dangerous. And Jared Bowen has just been appointed captain. I'm sure he's going to have a phenomenal season. Now, I think they could actually finish up in fourth, man. I think their squad is that good. But Lopetegui, I don't like him. I don't trust him, and I think he's going to play too defensive football for the group of players that he's got, and it just won't end well. Now, another shock. I'm going Liverpool in sixth. I think Klopp's departure is going to have a much bigger impact than people think. Like, you look at when Ferguson left Manchester United, they won the league and then finished seventh. Now, I know David Moyes was probably not the right fit, and that's why they did so bad, but it still has a big psychological impact. You look at Arsenal after Arsene Wenger left. They got there now because they've stuck to a project, but for a couple of years it was looking really dire over there. I think if anything happens to Van Dijk, that defence is screwed. And given the past few seasons, after a good year, he's either had an injury hit year or a bad year. If anything was to happen to him, I don't know if Quansah and Kanate together could deal with that. Obviously, if Robertson can keep himself fit, that's a big boost. Salah had a drop off last season in terms of performances. I know he still contributed to a lot of goals, but 5 of his goals were penalties and 1 was a rebound from a penalty. They've made no signings. They haven't sorted out the contracts for some of their better players that only have a year left, the likes of Salah, Van Dijk, even I think Alexander-Arnold. In terms of their other attackers, like Salah's obviously still very good. I think Gakpo has to play on the left wing if you're going to get the best out of him. He needs to recapture the form he had at the Euros because he was so good. And if Jota can keep himself fit, that front three could be really good. But Jota just can't keep himself fit at all, man. He plays about 3 games before he gets another injury. I don't think Diaz is very good. Like, he's a fantastic dribbler, but at 28 years old, he has no end product, and that just isn't good enough. And Darwin Núñez, I don't even want to talk about that guy, man. He's probably the only football player in the world that you actually expect to miss when he's in one-on-one. Their midfield is okay. I think Endo, I don't know if he'll have as good a season he did last year. McAllister is good, but both of them dropped off massively after April. Like, they were terrible. I think Szoboszlai massively overrated as well. It's no coincidence that last season, whenever Liverpool needed a goal, he would always be the first side to come off. He's not good as an attacking midfielder. As a box-to-box midfielder, he probably would be quite good because he's very physical. He runs around a lot, but he doesn't have the required technical ability, in my opinion. In fifth, I've gone with Tottenham Hotspur. They're now a year into their project. A lot of the players understand Postecoglou's system perfectly now. In pre-season, I think Bergvall has looked fantastic. They've got their Maddison back up. He might even start as that number 10. Solanke is a good signing. It gives them a different option up top. Obviously, allows Son to move to left wing when needed as well. It was quite an expensive deal, though. Jed Spencer's looked fantastic in pre-season, so I'd really like to see him and a doggy starting, but I think Porro probably will just edge it out, at least at the start of the season. I still think they need a more defensive midfielder, like, a proper number 6, someone like a Paulinho or Rodri, who will sweep up balls, allow players to push on. Because I know someone like Giroud, who I really like, I think he's a really good player. I don't really want to see him playing with the 6 a lot, but I do fear that we will see that. They don't really have anyone that's a natural 6, especially due to the fact that Yves Bissouma has decided to go and film himself doing balloons. What are you doing, bruv? You're a professional athlete. You're not a 15-year-old boy. What is wrong with you, man? Come on. I still think they desperately need a backup for a doggy as well, man. Because if he went down, Ben Davies is allowed to come in, or Oliver Skipp's going to play left back again. They need someone better there. Probably a left centre back as well, because if Van de Ven gets injured, Dragusin could come in, but he's more comfortable as a right centre back. Maybe they could just get a player like Lloyd Kelly, someone like that who can play left back and left centre back. I know obviously he's just gone to Newcastle, but he would have been perfect. And Mikey Moore, he's only like 16, 17, but he looks like a really exciting prospect. And the way Ange Postecoglou is talking about him, he's going to break through the season. I'm very excited to see that. Now in fourth, and retaining their Champions League spot, I'm going with Aston Villa. A lot of people have compared this Aston Villa team to the Newcastle team of last season who got Champions League football and then completely fell off, mainly due to their horrible injury crisis. But I think this is a completely different situation. Like, first off, Villa have had European experience last season. Yes, it was the Conference League. I know the Champions League is a different kettle of fish, but they still experienced the constant travelling, only having a couple of days in between matches. And their squad is so much thicker than Newcastle was. Some of the attacking depth they've got, some of the strikers, wingers, and attacking midfielders, like Watkins, Archer, and Duran's still there. I mean, I know both of them have been linked with loan moves away. I don't think they should loan both of them out just in case something happened to Watkins. I know Rodgers can also play up there, but he's not really best up there. Speaking of, you've got Morgan Rodgers, you've got Jaden Philogene, Leon Bailey, Jacob Ramsey, Illing Jr., who's just signed. Buendia is coming back. McGinn played a few games out on the left wing last season. Barkley can play as more of an attacking midfielder. They have lost Douglas Luiz, which is a big shame. He was a really key player for them. But they replaced him well with Amadou Onana. I think he's going to have a really good season. He's better defensively than Douglas Luiz. And while Kamara is out, that is big because when he went down last season, they fell off completely because they didn't have anyone that's comfortable defensively in that midfield. And he can do that. And once Kamara's back, he can move into the more box-to-box role because he's a fantastic ball carrier. And yeah, that midfield area is also stacked. I mentioned Barkley and McGinn already, but they've also got Yuri Tielemans. They've got Barencha as well that they got from Juve as part of the exchange deal for Douglas Luiz. They've bought an Ian Matson. Don't really think it was a necessary signing because they've already got two good left backs. Right back is a bit of a soft area for them, but they've been linked with Gertruda. I think that'll probably get done. And they've also got Tyrone Mings coming back from big injuries. They've got three players who had horrible injuries last year coming back. They've added some really good players like, bringing back Archer and Philogene. They've lost Douglas Luiz, but they've bought in Onana and also gained Illing Jr. and Barencha from that. And I don't see any reason why they can't qualify for the Champions League again. Now in third, I've gone with Newcastle United. I think they've been heavily slept on by a lot of people, man. Like, I've seen people putting them as low as 10th. I've seen a few people saying they could sneak into the top four. I think they'll be in there. They've got no European football, so the injury crisis they had last season shouldn't be anywhere near as significant this season. Everyone around them, or most teams around them at least, will be playing an extra 8 games minimum because of the new format. Like I said, they were crossed with the worst injury crisis of all time last season. Hopefully that isn't the case this year, and their squad is better than it was 2 years ago when they got into Champions League. Since then, they've added players like Gordon, Barnes, Isak has now settled, Lewis Hall, Tino Livramento, Tonali, he's coming back from his suspension. I think Kelly is a good free transfer, can cover left back and left centre back. And this Newcastle team that had all those injuries only scored 1 goal less than Liverpool in the Premier League last season. So can you imagine what's going to happen when they've got more of the defenders back? They've got Tonali back, they've got Joel Linton back, they've got Nick Pope back. Like, they're going to be really, really hard to beat. If we link with Noni Madueke, I think he'd be a brilliant addition. The front three, if it is going to be Gordon, Isak and Barnes, that is fantastic. But Madueke adds the left footer in there. Obviously, Gordon can play on the right to a very high standard, but he is better on the left, and that allows a bit more rotation as well. They've been heavily going after Gahey. I think they should pay an extra 10 mil and go and get Bramthwaite, if I'm going to be honest. I think he's slightly better. Both fantastic players, but Bramthwaite is better in the air. He's 2 years younger. I would go and get him personally. Now the top two, only 2 left. In second, I'm going Manchester City. Yeah, there's a few reasons for this. I mean, they've lost a couple big players like Alvarez going. They haven't replaced him. He can play all across that front 4 area. If Erling Haaland was to get injured now, they don't really have another natural number 9 that can come in. Obviously, I know Foden's played false 9 before. Kevin De Bruyne's played false 9 before. But if Kevin plays up there, you lose his elite creativity. They still don't have a Rodri replacement. Now, I know in the off-season, Pep could have found another way to maybe compensate for his absence, maybe playing 2 other more defensive players. I don't know. But I don't know. I feel like he's just such a good player. It's obviously going to be impossible for me to say go and get someone like him as a backup because there's no one like him. He's so elite. But they need to get someone who can play in a more defensive midfield role. Like, I don't think there's another player at the club that can do that unless they play John Stones there. And unfortunately, with the amount of football Rodgers played over the last 4 years, I do think something's going to happen to him this season if he isn't rested adequately. The injury to Oscar Bob is so sad as well, man, because he looked like he was going to have such a promising year and he's going to be out for most of it now. I wish him a speedy recovery. He would have been so exciting to watch, man. I think James McAtee will be really exciting to watch. He had a decent year at Sheffield United and Pep speaks really highly of him as well. If Savio and Doku play games together on the wing, man, defenders are going to have a nightmare because them two are both 1v1 specialists, elite dribblers. And despite the fact I do think Manchester City are going to finish second, I think there'll be 1 point in it or something. It's going to go down to the final day. Both of them get mid-90 points, in my opinion. I think Arsenal are going to win the league. They're going to end the run of Manchester City. They won't let them make it 5 in a row. I think their defence is just too good, man. The amount of options they've got in there. Calafiori, Saliba, White, Gabriel, Timber, Tomiyasu, Kivior, and Zinchenko still there as well. Like, mate, what the in 2024, Arsenal won 16 out of 18 Premier League games they played. The majority of those were played with Declan Rice as a box-box midfielder, Kai Havertz up front. The one game they lost is when they moved Rice back to defensive midfield and played Havertz in the midfield. I don't think Arteta's going to make that mistake again. You know, he's found his best team. When they played with Havertz up front, Rice in the 8, and they played Jorginho or Partey as the more defensive midfielder, the more the playmaker, they played some of the best football I think I've ever seen. They were really, really good to watch. I think Martinelli as well is going to have a much better season. He needs to because he was really poor last season. And I think it's time that the student becomes the master and he'll ruin his old masters last season. Now, top scorer, I think Alexander Isak takes it. I'm going to back him to get that 28 goals a season. I think he'll do really well. Player of the year, I think it'll probably go to the winner of the title. If I'm backing Arsenal, I think it's got to be either Rice, Odegaard or Saka, and I'm going to back Declan Rice to get it done. Although given the fact Roger didn't win it last season, I'm probably being a bit optimistic with that. I don't think anyone's going to keep more clean sheets than Arsenal. Their defence is just too good, man. I think Manchester City will win the FA Cup and they'll probably win the Champions League as well. I think Newcastle will win the Carabao Cup. Europa League, oh, I think Manchester United and Tottenham will both do really well in there. I think United will probably get to semis. Tottenham probably around the same. Clubs could do more business in January. Like Tottenham could address some of the issues that I have with their squad, and then I think they could actually go on and win that. You know what? I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna back Tottenham to win the Europa League. I don't think Chelsea win the Conference League because they just won't take it seriously enough to get knocked out in the semi-final or something. Other was manager of the season. Um, it's tough. I mean, given what I've predicted, it's got to be probably between McKenna, Howe, or Arteta. Maybe Glasner. I guess I'll give it to Arteta. Those are my predictions. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you soon for another video.